Have you ever heard this idea that adults have messed up the world and therefore we owe it to our children to have this kind of bubble of a childhood to protect them and it's kind of I'm hearing myself twice, sorry. Okay. Uh, that we need to protect our kids, that the world is so messed up, that adults have ruined everything, that our kids are going to have it so hard, right? And I want to debunk this, okay? I hear this all the time. I heard it just this week in a coaching session of mine at playgrounds, in parenting groups, even from people who, really think about resilience and really think about mindset. They'll still say things like this. They'll still say, oh, we're leaving our kids such a difficult world. The world is so messed up. Why even bring children into it? Oh, children should have a protective childhood bubble where they don't, face any hardship, and we give them everything that we didn't have, and we just make them happy and healthy all the time because the world is tough enough. And when they're 18, they're going to meet the reality of the world. And meanwhile, they shouldn't, be exposed to all of that. I'm going to tell you something a little bit radical about this, which is that, in my opinion, this story is really false. This story is harmful. This story is making children weaker, not stronger. And we here at HiFam are all about creating strong family cultures to raise strong individuals. So if that speaks to you, make sure that you are subscribed, hit the like button, hit the notification button, leave me your comments below. I read every single one, and I really, really appreciate those of you taking the time to think these issues through on a deep level. I'm going to give you 3 reasons I think that adults did not mess up the world for our children, and that would be a harmful message to give them, and what I think we should tell them instead. And I feel really passionately about this subject, as you're going to see in a moment, because I think it's become actually almost like an invisible mindset. Like, everybody just has that idea that the world is so messed up. Poor kids. What are they growing into? How are they going to handle the future? We should apologize or feel bad for what we've done to them. Adults messed up the world for them. And this is just plainly false. And even if it was true, it wouldn't be the right thing to focus on. Okay, so you ready? Point number 1 that I want to make is that we did not mess up the world. First of all, technically, you and I didn't mess up the world, right? Not any specific individual is responsible for messing up the world, okay? But also, the world has never been better. If you just look at the reality around us, this generation is de facto, kind of objectively, the luckiest in human history, okay? For 99% of human history, childhood meant disease and hunger and war, no medicine, no stability, no education, no indoor plumbing, certainly no Wi-Fi, okay? Our kids today, for the most part, have the longest life expectancy ever, talking in gross generalizations about our the rising generation. Maybe not in every specific country, in every specific scenario, but life expectancy has gone up. Okay, they have antibiotics, they have, for better or worse, whatever you think about it, vaccines, eyeglasses, dental care, clean water, okay, and even things like iPads and roller skates and horse riding lessons and all sorts of things that they can do today that kids could never do in history. They have much better health. Fewer children die today than at any point in human history from any cause. Global poverty has pretty much collapsed in many ways. Okay, it's better than it's ever been before. War deaths per capita have never been lower. Literacy and prosperity are exploding worldwide. Okay, these are really important points to understand, that children today are not victims of a broken world. They are, in fact, beneficiaries of the safest, healthiest, richest world humanity has ever created. Okay, so if you're raising your child to feel like, oh, the adults before me broke the world, right? Kind of a Greta Thunberg message of, you ruined my childhood, you stole it from me. It's the opposite. Children today are growing up in a world that is safer, healthier, more prosperous, and more peaceful than ever before. And the attitude of entitlement, that they deserve something else from the adults, that the adults have somehow, broken some promise that all the adults before them kind of made to them, is ridiculous and simply false. It doesn't bear out in facts. Okay. The fact is that for generations, for basically all of human history, adults have just struggled to survive. Okay. They've just struggled to get through childhood and then to make ends meet and then often to die a painful death, a young death. Okay. Maybe a violent death. The reality for most humans, most of the world over, for most of history, has been pretty terrible in that regard, okay? Suffering from disease and war and famine and all manner of pain. They were not there trying to ruin the world for our kids, okay? They weren't thinking about our kids. They were just trying to think about getting through the day and helping their children survive. It is such a narcissistic, entitled, and ridiculous perspective to look back at history and say, you ruined the world for me. You messed up the world because of you, because of all the adults that came before me. I don't have my childhood. You stole it from me. Whether you're pointing to ecological disaster, global warming, war, misogyny, racism, any aspect that you might be pointing to, it is an entitled and false perspective to point a finger at previous generations and say it as if they stole something from you. Why? Because children today are beneficiaries of such a great world because adults built it. Okay. The opposite is true. Adults have fought diseases. They've invented surgery. They've built farms. They've created sanitation and developed electricity and built hospitals and ended plagues and fought tyrants and democratized knowledge and created technology and innovation. So, really, the only appropriate response from us, from millennials, from Gen Z, from Gen Alpha would be gratitude and responsibility and ambition, not doom, not entitlement, not complaints. Okay. The appropriate awareness is that adults have suffered and struggled throughout history, people, children as well, right? And that it's an absolute freaking miracle that that we collectively, that humanity, not me, I didn't contribute anything to it, but the people who have contributed to it have created the technology and the innovations and the medicine and the peace and the prosperity that they've invented. That is the miracle. The default is suffering and tyranny and pain. The fact of a shelter over your head and food on your table and clean water in your pipes and medicine, that is the miracle. And that is the thing that they should experience overwhelming gratitude for and a responsibility to protect that precious inheritance and maybe to grow up and contribute to it. Like, yes, sweetie, there are still problems in the world. There is still evil. There is still wars. There is still disease. There's still stuff to do. We still have to fight poverty. Okay, so how about grow up and contribute? How about grow up and do your little small part, at least not to hinder the very incredible progress that humanity has made, but also maybe to contribute to it. That should be the attitude that we take with our children, not an attitude of, sorry, we failed you, good luck with the broken universe, right? No. Okay, why? Because of point number 2. First of all, point number 1 was that that's a false narrative. But point number 2 is that a doom narrative destroys children's mental health. We've actually seen this really well documented. Okay. Parents who constantly say things or think things like the world is broken, everything's getting worse, your future will be terrible, I don't know how to protect you against the evils of the world, this isn't a safe place, doomsday is coming, the world's about to end, we've broken everything, we've ruined everything, we're terrible, we are terrible as people. We are terrible because of our race or because of our religion or because of our history or because of my grandparents or because of humanity or because of factories, right? That is not being protective to your child, okay? That is programming anxiety and helplessness into your child, okay? The psychology is actually very clear on this. Optimists live longer, healthier, more successful lives. And perception of the world really affects our biological response. Okay, your biological stress response is based on the thoughts that you think about that stress, about the world. If you think, yes, there are tough things in the world and there's still war and famine and poverty and all that stuff, and there's work to be done, but wow, are we lucky? And wow, am I, privileged to have the ambition and the opportunity to be one of the contributors, right? Then you aren't going to perceive it with such pessimism and doom. But if you perceive it as if, oh, the world is such a messed up place, we just need to protect our children, then you're obviously going to feel pessimistic and doomsy. And kids who believe that the world is dangerous become avoidant and anxious. Kids who believe that, sure, the world is dangerous, but I can cope, but I can handle it. I can face my fears. There is something I can do about it. I am somehow empowered to it. There is more good than evil. Most people are safe. Most things work out okay. I'm lucky to have what I have. All of those types of thoughts are kids who aren't going to be avoidant or anxious. They are going to be capable and competent. They are going to be antifragile and resilient. And that's what we want for them, I would imagine, right? If you want resilience, ambition, grit, hope, innovation from your child, then you can't raise a child on a steady diet of nihilism. You can't raise a child who believes that the world is messed up, as just a blanket statement with no, kind of conditions to that. Okay, kids become what you tell them the world is. Okay, if you tell them everything is ruined, then they're going to become paralyzed by that. But if you tell them this world is incredible, we are so lucky, and you have a part to play, then they become, unstoppable. They become anti-fragile. They become capable. Okay, but there is an even deeper layer of why, even if the world was a little bit broken and messed up, and it is a little bit broken and messed up, I'll give that to you. There are awful things that do happen. And even if you are going to give them that doomsday narrative, and you're going to tell them that the world is terrible, and because you want to be truthful, or that's really what you feel, or that's really your honest opinion. Okay, childhood is not meant to be a bubble. Childhood serves a purpose, and we've lost sight of this purpose in the modern Western world. Okay, in the modern Western world, when you ask parents, what do you want for your child? The main thing that they talk about is happiness. I want them to be happy and healthy. I want them to be happy and healthy. Okay. But this misses the fact that happiness is a byproduct of a life well lived, of a meaningful life. Okay. And happiness is a little bit of an elusive and flaky goal, because it's usually describes a temporary feeling, not a deep state of mind, right? A deeper state of mind maybe would be defined as joyful, okay, or optimistic, or empowered, right? Happiness, you feel it in a fleeting way, and it's something that is hard to like craft a whole, approach to parenting and to life about, okay? But beyond that, if you were to say, Avital, the world is so messed up, they're going to discover how terrible it is when they're 18 anyway. Let them have, a bubble of unicorn and rainbows, and, let's just kind of bubble wrap them and have fluff and squidge and fun in their childhood, because sooner or later they're going to bump up against the world's disappointments and frustrations and cruelties and brutality. Then you don't understand what childhood is for. Okay, I am not for a second saying overexpose your child. No, protect them from the news. Protect them, of course. Okay, don't overexpose your child. Don't crush their spirit. Don't make things scary. No, that's not what I'm suggesting. But you have to understand that childhood is meant to be a training grounds. Hania says, hello from Iran. Hello, Hania. Welcome, welcome. Hello from Israel. It is so great to see you here. Childhood is meant to be a training ground. That is what I'm talking about here, okay? That is where modern day parenting got completely confused. Okay, childhood is not about endless fun, protection from discomfort, curated perfection, happiness 24/7. Okay, it's not like a Disney movie with a parental concierge service, offering you snacks on tap. That's not what childhood is meant to be. It's not there so that your child can, live the childhood that you never had, and have everything that you didn't have, and have protection from all of the frustrations and disappointments of life. Okay, childhood is actually designed to be a training ground for adulthood. Okay, that is why all mammals have a childhood. And that is why the longer the childhood, the more intelligent the species. If you're an intelligent, complex species like humans are, you need a lot of skills. Okay, in every mammal, in every culture, in every era of history, childhood has been the training ground for adults, where you learn the skills that you need in order to survive and hopefully thrive. Okay, so kids have to experience frustration, disappointment, boredom, conflict, effort, responsibility. overcoming fears, boundaries, solving problems, if they are to develop the types of skills that will set them up for success later in life. Okay. If they don't experience those things, they will not develop the neural and emotional architecture that their brain needs for future success. Okay. You cannot raise kids on rainbows and then expect them to be able to face storms. You have to offer them the training ground to become strong in their childhood. Okay. If you bubble wrap them for 18 years and you make everything easy peasy and you clear all the obstacles from their path and filter everything through a pink filter where everything is just perfect and they never experience any loss, any grief, any frustration, any sadness, any wanting, any yearning, they don't know how to wait, they don't know how to handle conflict, they don't know how to handle rejection. Okay. Then don't be surprised when they fail to launch. Don't be surprised when they get hit so hard, when they get dumped for the first time, or when they get fired, or when they don't make the team, that they can't get out of bed in the morning, that they are overtaken by depression and anxiety at every disappointment and at every step. If you never gave them the training ground to handle that, if you never said, sorry, you can't have the blue cup, only the yellow cup is available right now, then how are they going to develop their resilience? You can't prevent them from discomfort and expect them to be strong and resilient, okay? Because resilient comes from practice, not protection. Resilient comes from exposure. Again, not overexposure. I'm not saying they should see things that are traumatizing or that are above their age grade or that are going to crush their spirit, okay, or that are going to imprint scary images on their brain. That's not what I'm suggesting, okay? I'm talking about the idea that they have to experience regular humdrum vanilla day-to-day first world problems like frustration, irritation, and sometimes heavier stuff. Like, I have students right now who have gone through a divorce, who have gone through a home burning down, who have gone through a hurricane. My kids just lived through 2 years of war. These are things that people live through. And I don't see that making them any weaker, but rather making them stronger as long as they get the right support from their parents. Okay. And so it's incredibly important that you don't wrap them for 18 years and protect them from that and give them the message that the world is so messed up out there. Oh no, your future is so awful, and expect just, zero training and then full competency. Okay. Train them to be an adult. And the way that we train them to be an adult is gradually. Okay. A newborn baby, we are 100% responsive to them. We don't let them cry it out. We don't let them want for anything. We answer their every need and whim before they even know they have it. We are 100% at their beck and call, right? But by the time they're 2, we're already transferring more independence. You can, do it. I'm watching you. I'm sitting here and you can do it, and you can develop more distance from me and you can start to detach from me as a separate human being, right? Because you have that secure attachment, you're going to feel more confident as a toddler to go out into the world. And then by the time you're 4, wow, now you're already going to have some consequences to your actions. If you throw things on the floor, you're not going to be able to play with them anymore. If you hit someone, the play date is over. If you scream in my face, I'm going to the other room. I don't want to hear that. Now you're going to start to take responsibility for the types of things that you do and see that what I do has an effect on others. And the way it affects others means I need to take some responsibility for the choices I'm making. And by the time you're 11, you're going to have massive responsibilities. You're going to be allowed to go out by yourself and make wise choices and take care of your own safety and help out around the home and take care of little ones and work hard, even at things that are boring to you, right? And so on and so forth, so that by the time they're 18, they're ready for adulthood. They've experienced delays and bureaucracies and pressure and stress and disappointment and someone, mistreating them a little bit and someone rejecting them and frustration and having to wait and having to put yourself out there and all sorts of things. Give them many, 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 many experiences throughout their childhood so that they are properly trained. Okay, think of it this way. You're the adult, so you've already got the job. They are training for the job. It's your job to transfer responsibility, knowledge, and skills and the right mindsets onto them so that they can succeed in the job. Now, you know what it takes. You have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. You have life experience. Okay. You've learned a thing or two. So teach them what it takes. Don't keep them small. Okay. Instead of teaching them doom and despair and the idea that adults ruined everything, teach them gratitude. Okay. For the unbelievable inheritance that they've been given. Teach them responsibility because they stand on the shoulders of people who sacrificed for them. The only reason that you have what you have, a roof over your head, internet to connect to, safety, if you have that, is because adults sacrificed themselves, their lives for you to have that. How easy is it to forget that? To desecrate their names and their sacrifice and to be entitled to more. Like, why isn't the world better? Why isn't the world even better than it is? I can't believe there's still wars. I can't believe there's still disease. Ew, adults, do your job. Like, excuse me? Excuse me? No. Excuse me? No, we are not going to raise a child who thinks they're entitled to perfection without contributing anything of themselves. It's like, honey, you think it's so easy? Why don't you grow up and start adulting? How about we see you just take care of your bedroom, let alone the world? What have you solved? What skills have you developed? Sorry, did you come up with a cure for cancer? Okay, then maybe be quiet and say thank you. Maybe it's not so easy to be an adult. It's not so easy to survive in this world. This world is, yes, a complex and chaotic place, and bad things do happen. So maybe we're just going to say thank you for all the great things we have. And thank you that we are in the best generation ever with the most peace and prosperity and health ever. Okay, well, let's start from there. And then if you have some ideas, great. Get to work. There's plenty to be done. Go earn your degrees or your ideas or your skills or whatever you need. And sure, go ahead. Get us to the moon. Get us to Mars. Get us to cancer-free. End all wars. You do it. Go on. You do it. Let's see you. Okay? Oh, it's not that easy. Then maybe stop complaining about it. Right? Then maybe stop complaining about it. Okay? Let's have responsibility for the shoulders that we stand on who sacrificed for us, responsibility to them and to their memories of all the very good people who worked very hard at solving very difficult problems and did so successfully. Okay, let's raise our children with ambition. Okay, there are real problems to solve. Okay, but our kids, have more tools than any generation before them. So yeah, there are real problems, but why don't we think about solutions rather than lingering on the issues? So many people teach their kids to linger on the problems. Oh, there's still racism. Oh, there's still anti-Semitism. Oh, there's still war. Oh, it's so terrible. Oh, yeah, those things, look at them because we have to address them, and then look to solutions. Okay. Because, I read really sad research recently it's from Jonathan Haidt's book. Okay. The Anxious Generation. And he points out the differences between different political leanings and genders and levels of anxiety. And apparently the children who are most anxious are liberal girls. This is talking about American politics, right? Liberal teenage girls are growing up on a steady diet of the world is a doomed place. Global warming is going to destroy us. This is a racist country. This is we have terrible stains on our history, and all the other bad things that they're growing up with. All the, you should feel terrible about who you are and who your ancestors are and what your country is and what the world is and what everybody is and what capitalism is. And you should feel terrible about all these things. And that drive, that kind of teaching that percolates in their brain causes them very high levels of anxiety and depression. And no wonder, right? No wonder. So what can we do instead? Well, we can raise them with realism, okay? Not gloom, okay? Yes, the world has flaws. That's normal. No one promised perfection. This utopian idea that the world was supposed to be perfect. We were supposed to never have terrible. There was supposed to never be bad people, and never be misogyny, and never be racism, and never be slavery, and never be, Holocaust, and never be. It was supposed to be perfect, and it isn't perfect. So it's so unfair, right? It's the unfair fallacy. Like, it was supposed to be fair, and it's no, honey, no. Hi, realism calling. Hello, welcome to planet Earth. There has always been pain and suffering and grief alongside joy, connection, beauty. And that's the human condition. And I don't know who promised you otherwise. I'm so sorry. They gave you a mistaken, map, a faulty compass. That's not the way the world has ever worked. It's not the way the world works right now. Make friends with that. Make friends with the fact that you're not going to be a perfect 10. You're not going to get always an A grade. There are going to be evil people out there. Some people might attack you. They might hurt you. They might mistreat you. They might misgender you. They might do all sorts of things. Yeah, there are microaggressions. And guess what, my love, my dove? There are macroaggressions too. Welcome to planet Earth. I hope you enjoy your stay. Okay? The world is not a perfect place. No one pretended that it was. And if you just erase that idea that it was supposed to be, you realize that most people have lived with tyranny, with assault, with war, with horrific circumstances of health and decay and famine for most of human history. So just friggin' say thank you that that's not you right now, and get to work on solving the problems you can. Let's be more realistic so that we don't have to be so depressed, okay? That's just life. I know that it's part of life. It's part of life, okay? And for most of our kids, for most of the kids in my audience, it's not even about war or famine or poverty, right? That's not what they're facing. They're facing things like being rejected or being teased, or the parents are fighting and it's hard at home, or we've got to budget more, so I have to cut out my my classes, or my mom said no to my video games, right? It's like total first world problems, which is wonderful. That is great. That is wonderful. Okay? Good. Enjoy the fact that your issues and your frustrations are first world problems. That's a great thing to have. Just have some perspective. Okay, hun? Have some perspective, because perspective is protective. Okay? Perspective is how we protect ourselves. We say, wait. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky in that. I mean, it's such a weird phrasing. I don't mean I'm lucky in this, but I am lucky in the perspective that I gain from it. Because my grandparents are all Holocaust survivors, I compare everything to running away from the Nazis. Everything. I'm like, every struggle that I face, I'm like, well, I'm not saying goodbye to my kids at a train station, right? Never to see them again. So I'm not running away from the Nazis, so things are good. Like, this is a problem I can handle. At least I'm not running away from the Nazis, right? I know that's a little bit weird and morbid, but it's protective of my mental health, because I know to put my issues into perspective. So even if I'm running into a bomb shelter with my kids, right? I'm like, okay, but it's better than being on a train on the way to Auschwitz, right? So this is better. Now, I know some people are going to call that spiritual, bypassing, or gaslighting myself, or toxic optimism. But I don't think that's true. I think perspective is protective. I don't think it's toxic to be able to put our problems into the correct hierarchy of problems. There is a hierarchy of problems. Some problems are significantly worse than other problems. Some grief is significantly more extensive and more dramatic than other forms of grief. And many people will say to me things like, you can't compare suffering. If for one kid not getting, Sony PlayStation is disappointment, and for the other kid, not getting any education and not having any clean running water is their problem, then, you can't compare, because each person feels their own level of grief and hierarchy. And I'm like, sorry, no, it's not the same. We all know it's not the same. I don't believe anyone thinks that we should be treating every level of frustration the same. There are things that are just, it's not my preference. It's not what I most preferred. It's not what I most wanted, right? And you can feel a bit of empathy for that. Like, it sucks to be disappointed. It sucks to not get what you want. It sucks to have to wait for things. Those things are annoying. Totally fair. It's okay. We can still feel empathy towards them. But we could reserve a little bit more empathy for bigger pain, for worse situations. I think we know this. I think we know that we shouldn't compare our struggles to far more dramatic or far worse struggles, even though we can still hold space for what's difficult for us. That's okay. You're allowed to do that. You should do that. Okay. So my point is that we need to teach our children resilience in the form of, yes, life is full of challenges, and that's okay because humans can handle them. And it's also okay because, honey, that's just life. That's just reality. There's nothing we can do about that. Okay. So we want to provide that resilience and that mindset and that perspective that people have gone through worse things. I've gone through worse things. My grandparents have gone through worse things. I can handle this. I can handle this frustration. And not the perspective that says the world is so broken, everything's so hard. Oh, my poor child. Okay. Let me summarize like this. We didn't mess up the world. Humanity, not me, not you. Humanity didn't mess up the world. Humanity has built the most extraordinary world that we've ever seen. Your children aren't fragile flowers growing in a wasteland, okay? They are strong, capable humans growing in the greatest garden ever planted. Yeah, there are snakes in the garden. No garden is perfect. There are some mosquitoes. There are some annoyances, and there are some treacherous, brutal, cruel realities as well. Both of those things are true. But raise them with gratitude, with strength, with clarity, with the expectation that they will add to the goodness, not hide from the imaginary darkness. Okay? They don't need to bundle themselves under their duvet covers and, grimace at the world and point fingers at the world and feel entitled to the world and hide from risk and from exposure because the world is such a terrible place. Okay, the world isn't ending right now. And if it does, there's nothing you can do about it. So it's not worth thinking about. The adventure is just beginning. You're a child, okay? And you're lucky to be a part of it. You're lucky to be here, okay? That is the message that I would give my kids if I wanted to protect their mental health and if I wanted to raise them to be contributors rather than entitled. I want to address some of your questions. If you have any questions for me and you're here live, type them right now. And meanwhile, let me get to what you've written so far. You are truly an inspiration in every human form. I always find answers in your channel. Keep it up. Thank you so much. VJ Olkayakapi. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, but that is a beautiful message. Thank you very much. Mona Bella says, thank you for this. It is exactly what I needed to hear right now. Thank you. Thank you, Mona Bella. That is meaningful for me to hear. Hania from Iran says, kiss, kiss, lovely psychologist. Thank you so much. I'm actually not a trained psychologist. I'm just a coach, just a mom, just sharing ideas. She says, yes, rejection and no, saying no are necessary for growth. Exactly right. Train them to be an adult. Golden sentence. Exactly. Whenever you're thinking about a parental, dilemma that you face, a conflict that you face, you're not sure how to handle it. Ask yourself, how can I train them to be an adult? So they're still kids, right? Like I said, if they're newborns, you're going to be 100% responsive. And if they're 8-year-olds, you're going to be really patient and understanding about their shortcomings or about their poor mindsets or about their attitudes. But how can I train them? How can I give them mindset coaching that would help an adult? That would help them. Or if you want to ask it to yourself in another way, how can I make them stronger, not weaker in this scenario? Okay. Hania says, of course, for caring mothers, this is often a difficult practice. Yes, because your instinct is empathy. Your instinct is to save them, is to rescue them, is to protect them. And that instinct is really appropriate for babies. And that's why mothers have developed it, because mothers' primary biological evolutionary role is to have babies and to protect babies. And so our brains are hardwired for responsiveness and for protection, right? We always focus on safety and on being there for a child and not letting them, struggle or suffer. And as I said, with newborns, that's a great instinct. Where many of us struggle is gradually weaning ourselves off of the baby phase of parenting and into the phase that is going to help them to grow into capable adults. If you're still babying your 18-year-old, now you're not being a good mother anymore. That is being of disservice to them. That is being unfair on them. That is keeping them small, fragile, and weak and dependent on you. And sometimes we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing that? Do we need to be needed? Right? Is it something that is serving us more than it's serving our child? That might often be the case, right? But it's easy to defend. Okay, it's easy to defend that idea of protection and of safety because it sounds so right. It sounds what parenting is about. And as I say, in the beginning, it is what it's about. But by the time your child is 4, they need to learn how to get along with others and put themselves next, not first all the time, right? And negotiate and handle conflicts and learn how to share nicely and how to actually sometimes suppress their impulse, right? They feel like hitting or they feel like grabbing something and they have to learn to manage that, or how to digest their emotions. Like, I'm so mad, but I'm not going to scream and cry right now because I'm in the middle of church or I'm at someone's house and that would be inappropriate. By the time they're 5, 6, 7, we want to see them being able to do those things, right? And for that, you can't just be everly responsive and validating and understanding and gentle parenting and conscious parenting and attachment parenting, right? That's why attachment parenting is really, really great for the first few months. But by the time a child is 7, it's unfair on them if you're constantly responsive to them and to their every whim. They have to learn to handle feelings, okay? Because that would be a really good thing to be able to do if you want to be an adult in this world, that you don't melt down, that you're not constantly dependent, right? That you grow in maturity. Hania says, this year I want to become a mother for the first time. That is such a moving journey that you're embarking on, and I'm so excited for you. And please God that it should all go healthily and smoothly. She says, what did you study and at which university? I studied visual communications, completely unrelated to parenting, at the University of the Academy, in fact, of Bezalel, it's called. So my background is in design. I come from the world of design. And then I became a parenting coach when I became a parent, and I became obsessed with learning all about parenting. And I trained in a few different institutions for parent coaching, in hand-in-hand parenting and in simplicity parenting and in some other ways. But the vast majority of what I share here is self-taught, is things that I like to blend lots of different disciplines and learn and experiment in my own lab, in my own family. And after coaching for over 10 years, it's really kind of morphed into my own, I guess, approach. That's a blended approach, if that makes sense. So I have both the downside of not being a psychologist, because I'm not clinical and I'm not licensed and I'm not educated to that degree. But I also have the upside of not being beholden to a particular approach, and also being able to coach people and offer advice rather than therapy, right? I can't do therapy. I can offer kind of life advice or mindset coaching and that kind of thing. I hope that helps. And then, obviously my own personal experience as a mother of 5. Okay, so my friends, we're going to leave it there. Thank you to everyone joining me live. Thank you to those of you in the replay. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do hit subscribe. The best way to support my channel and its growth is to share this with someone who you think might find it interesting. Use it to start a conversation of your own. Maybe you're sharing it with your spouse, with your best friend, with your parent group, with your school group, to discuss. Because unfortunately, what's very missing from today's day and age is learning how to build a family culture. We talk a lot about the micro interactions between parent and child, what you should say, what you should do. But we don't talk enough about family culture. You're a leader, you're a CEO, you're a founder, you've formed something, you've created a household, and that household is going to raise children in a particular culture. Is it a culture of resilience or a culture of fragility? Is it a culture of hope and ambition and gratitude, or is it a culture of entitlement and disappointment and despair even, right? Is it a culture of giving or a culture of taking? Is it a culture of overcoming or a culture of giving up? These are the types of things that I can help you with, right? I reverse engineer family culture from Ancient wisdom, whether it's family meals, deep, meaningful conversations, transmission of our values and our canon of beliefs onto our children, offering that life advice, the rites of passage, our screen time management, and how much exposure we have to outside culture, filtering those things through critical thinking. So when I do go down some rabbit hole on TikTok, or Kim Kardashian is telling me A, B, C, and D, how do I teach my child to filter that through their own common sense and their own values that they receive from home? Creating strong bonds and teamwork and community. Those are all things that I teach inside of the studio. If you haven't heard of the studio, it's my online membership where I do coaching, where I do Zoom calls, where I offer you my curriculum for building a full family culture, and so much more besides. It's actually the most incredible community of parents worldwide. We have parents from over 100 countries who have joined the studio, from every walk of life, from every major religion. I don't tell you what your values should be. I don't tell you what you should believe. I'm Israeli, I'm Jewish. That's my culture. That's not what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you how to create your culture, your belief system, your value system, and how to impart that onto your children in a way that is meaningful, how to give them critical thinking skills, how to bolster them up, make them strong in the face of challenges that every human is going to face at one point or another in their life. If that sounds good to you, make sure you're on the wait list over at HiFam.com/studio. HiFam.com/studio or the studio, and make sure to get on the wait list because we only open doors once a year. With that, I will bid you farewell. Keep on living that HiFam life, and I'll see you in the next video.